everybody. This is Diane. Hello and welcome to the Real Housewives of Alaska. And we are going to earn our F-bombs again tonight because the whole world's always waiting and watching, and it's only a matter of time before you fuck it all up.
Yeah, this is Marnell, and we will definitely earn our adult rating this episode because we're not only going to say the F word, we're going to say the P word. So, a lot.
So I actually was watching this and I was like, this probably should have been a Capes and Lunatics After Dark episode.
Oh, and our luck, it would be the almost all-female lineup with just Phil as the lone dude.
Poor Phil. He did hold his own, though, and I think he would hold his own with this movie as well.
Yeah.
So, we didn't even say what we're talking about. We're talking about Assassination Nation, which the reason that Marnell suggested it is that Odessa Young, who is one of the main actresses in the reboot of The Stand, which we're talking about on Biters, was one of the main actresses in this film.
Yes, and I actually, when I was doing the research for Odessa Young as our featured cast member on Biters, I came across this movie and I was like, I have to watch this. And I rented it on Amazon, but I just found out tonight that it is on Hulu for free if you have Hulu.
Darn. So. I mean, I'm not bummed that I rented it because I really liked it. So I'm not bummed that they got some money from me. But if I had known that it was free on Hulu, I would have watched it on Hulu, quite honestly.
So I hate I don't have an Alexa, I don't have a Google Assistant, anything like that, but I do have a remote that goes to my little subscription box. I can have Hulu and Netflix and all that kind of stuff on it. The remote, you can press a button and just speak into the remote what you want to watch, and it'll come up with all of the watching options for it.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
I'm getting lazier and lazier, and I'm just doing that now instead of actually going to the app and searching for things. I'm this close to getting an Alexa. And
I'm surrounded by all the digital spies, but you know what? Yesterday I had a Hamilton concert in my living room, and today I had a Taylor Swift concert in my living room, and I was rocking it out with both of them, so I don't mind having my digital spy.
Oh, you say that now, but what if all your stuff got hacked?
Well, I am at a point in my life where there might be a few things that I don't want displayed on the internet. So it might be a little bit of an issue.
Yeah. So this episode could be triggering to anybody who fears that as much as we fear just about anything else these days.
Yeah,
so
I don't know. Do I fear that as much as I fear anything else? I'm not sure. I don't have I'm pretty out there with my blog. I certainly have some DMs that I really would rather people don't read.
Right.
But that's about it. Although it sounds like this was pretty much DMs that people, got that they shouldn't have read.
Right. And things that you think could be innocuous.
Right, like the principal, who we'll talk about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do we want to go into ratings?
Sure. Do you want to give your rating or do you want me to give mine?
I would love for you to give yours because I loved this movie so much.
Well, I think you're going to be shocked. I gave it a 5 out of 5 parts and pieces.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
I am shocked.
I mean, okay, so I think this will be our 13th or 14th episode of Real Housewives, and this will be the third thing we've given a 5 to. that I have given a 5 to.
And it will be the second thing that I have given a 5 to. I gave it a 5 trigger warnings, which there were far more than that, but the rating only goes up to 5. Yeah, so like I said, I loved this movie. Just
I wasn't sure that I was going to, and then like the first line, which we'll talk about, just totally sucked me in, and then like I told you, and I'll say it on online now, I did get a little queasy while watching this movie.
so I when I talked about it, I said that it was sort of like the synopsis sounded like it was a mashup between the movie Heathers and the movie Purge, if it all took place during the Salem witch trial, not during the Salem witch trials, but kind of as an allegory for the Salem witch trials. And yeah, it like the I, movies like Saw are like way more gruesome than The Purge, but The Purge, like, there's some pretty graphic scenes. So yeah, definitely. There actually there's some scenes that were cut out that you can actually watch on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah, there's about a half an hour worth of scenes, and they also supposedly had to cut out the scene of when the principal is confronting her about her sketches.
Really?
And so, but we
Was it
actually
more
saw
I was going to say, was it more graphic than what we saw? Because what we saw was fairly graphic.
Yeah.
She spoke pretty plainly to him about her sketches.
Right. And so I was, one of the reviews that I saw said that scene was actually cut out, and they actually showed the picture with like a flower over the woman,
Mm-hmm.
and said that had to be cut out to avoid an NC-17 rating. Well, I watched it both on Amazon and Hulu, and that scene was in it, and it's not NC-17. So I don't know.
Huh.
But of course, this movie did not get like wide theater release or anything. This was like a Sundance film. So,
Which is profoundly disappointing, and I will talk about that in the numbers.
So I think they can almost get away with more if they're not doing a wide release in theaters. So, I don't know.
I do want to say before we get into the numbers that when I looked this up, and I think it was Wikipedia's description, it said it was a 2018 black comedy thriller. And I was like, I fail to see the black comedy part. It was grim and it was awesome and it was definitely a thriller. There was not much about it that was comedic.
Not really. I mean, I really love the friendship that the girls had.
But it wasn't funny. I mean, it wasn't.
No.
I mean, when I think about black comedies, I think, and I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but I think about movies like The Last Supper, which was a
Yes,
really
I
funny movie.
love The Last Supper.
Ron
We might have to do that
Perlman.
movie.
Yeah, I love that movie. I wouldn't mind doing that movie. Yeah, so I think about movies like that. I don't
Yeah.
think about movies like this. I think about this as like a horror thriller movie.
Yeah. Almost like a psychological thriller.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I even the parts where like the actors and actresses were laughing, like they were sort of laughing at other people's expense, which, the audience, knowing what we know, don't really find funny. So,
Right.
yeah. I saw something that said it was sort of like a really long Black Mirror episode,
Oh,
and I'm like,
you've watched that. I haven't, so I can't weigh in.
well, and Black Mirror is kind of like kind of a Twilight Zone-y type thing, and there's never a happy ending, which is why I love it, because life doesn't usually have a happy ending in a lot of stuff. So, yeah.
It just has an ending. Sorry, that's really grim for someone who's had such a nice week. But yeah. Yeah. Life doesn't usually have a happy ending. You're absolutely right.
Right.
All right. Well, I have a few numbers. So our budget for this film was $7 million. The box office, according to Wikipedia, it was $2.9 million. And I think you're totally right. It's because it didn't get a big release. I don't know that they have incorporated any DVD rentals or streaming rentals into that number. They didn't say.
Right. And I mean, if it's being shown up free on Hulu, with a subscription to Hulu, you have to think that they probably got money for
From
that
Hulu,
contract
right.
that's not figured in.
Right.
Yeah.
It had a 74% tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes and only a 54% audience meter, which I was really surprised by that.
That is surprising.
I actually expected the numbers to be much better from the audience. And I actually left the Rotten Tomatoes site up because some of the critics, most of the critics' reviews that they posted were good reviews. Things like gleeful, I turned to myself and went, wow. Here it is, the definitive movie for the Donald Trump era. Like Trump, it's crass, disturbing, and devoid of subtext. Unlike him, it has style, self-awareness, and a sense of humor.
Oh my God, I love that person.
But then this other person was like, enough with the feminism as male titillation, please. And I was like, really? I didn't get that at all.
No. Huh.
Yeah, no, so,
because you were titillated doesn't mean that's what we meant by
it. Right. And then let's see, there's only a couple of audience reviews, but the 3-star review was within the first 15 minutes or so. I thought I was really going to hate this movie. The falseness of it all felt so glaring. It was trying to be something it didn't naturally know how to pull off in the worst way. It's very long. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but that was kind of the gist. And then the 5-star review was Assassination Nation is an explicitly potent and timely movie of the moment. It's a modern monsters are due on Maple Street for the age of Trump, exposing the fissures in our society, primarily the elements that prey upon, police, and punish women.
Yeah, had I watched this probably when it came out in 2018, I probably would have rated it lower because I would be like, that kind of stuff could never really happen. And then, a month and one day ago, people sieged the Capitol, and now I'm like, oh yeah, I could totally see a town going bananas and killing each other. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, this was a really intense movie. And one of my friends, so a couple of my friends on Facebook, one of them was like, yeah, that's 2 hours of your life you won't get back. And I was like, no, I actually really enjoyed it. I was a little nauseated, but I really enjoyed it. And then another friend was saying that she had watched a thing about abuse of little girls in the Catholic Church. I think it was called The Keepers. And that she was really disturbed by it. And I said, well, I'm going to tell you point blank, this is a 5 out of 5 for me, but you need to go into this knowing that it's going to be very disturbing if you decide to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're not into any of our ratings yet or anything, but the movie does start out with a trigger warning for bullying, blood, abuse, classism, death, drinking, drug use, sexual content, toxic masculinity, homophobia, transphobia, guns, nationalism, racism, kidnapping, murder, attempted murder, the male gaze, attempted rape, sexism, it's definitely sexism,
right? Swearing,
torture, violence, gore, weapons, and fragile male egos. So, trigger warning. That's why Dianne was nauseated. That was packed into 2 hours.
It definitely lived up to its trigger warning.
Yeah.
So the title, Assassination Nation, I was like, is it a commentary on violence in the U.S.? Is it a commentary on online culture in general? Is it both?
I think both. Because there was a lot. I mean, there was a lot of taking of lives, but there was also a lot of ruining of lives with the information that was leaked.
Right. And when I think about assassination, I don't just think about killing people. I think about killing their character. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we saw that with the mayor and with the principal, and then of course it trickled down from there. But yeah,
I didn't have anything else on the title, did you?
no, not really.
So our writer and director, one and the same, a guy named Sam Levinson. I'm going to be honest with you and say when I looked him up, I didn't recognize anything that he had done. So he has 7 writer credits, including a thing in post-production called Deep Water, which is a screenplay. He worked on a television series called Euphoria. Are you familiar with that at all?
Nope, not at all.
And then his very first credit, skipping down to the bottom, was a thing called Operation Endgame. And then he is a director on things that he wrote.
Yeah, I did not recognize anything by him, but Assassination Nation was actually acquired by the Russo brothers. And they're best known for directing films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, such as Captain America, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Avengers: Infinity War, Endgame.
I am so not a good geek that I didn't realize that.
I find more than the director interesting is the way that this movie got the release that it did. It was picked up by the Russo brothers, and it was also released with association with the media company Refinery 29. It's a digital media entertainment that's focused on young women. And a lot of their like little videos and articles and stuff come up a lot in my algorithm. So I'm very familiar with Refinery 29. And they are owned by Vice Media. And right. You've talked about liking a lot of the documentaries on Vice Media. And it's funny because I actually just watched a 3-part docuseries on QAnon on Vice.
Ooh,
that was interesting.
Where'd you find that?
With Sling, I have the Vice channel. I'll have to see if I can find it online somewhere for you.
I bet it was really good.
It was very good, and the end line of this movie just so reminds me of the stuff that Vice does and the 3-part QAnon series, because the kid was like, I did it for the lulz,
Right.
And
that was such a shocking ending to me that I was so shocked. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll talk about who the kid was for people who haven't watched the film.
Right. Lastly, the production company, and you see their logo flash at the beginning, and I see it all the time in movies that I watch. They're very highly stylistic movies. Velvet Chainsaw, Neon Demon, got a whole bunch of others. But the production company that distributed it is Neon. And Neon is sort of most famous for releasing I, Tonya, 3 Identical Strangers, which we've watched. And
okay.
Parasite.
Which I still haven't watched. Have you watched that?
I have not watched it either. But so I thought, like, everyone associated with aside from the director, who we normally, do talk a little bit on, but all the other places that helped this movie get released, it was just so interesting. Yeah, the Russo brothers, Refinery 29, that's owned by Vice Media, and Neon. Like, I was just, of course I liked this movie.
Of course you did. I was shocked that I did.
I'm shocked you liked it as much as you liked it, because when you texted me and
I was like, I'm a little freaked out.
I was like, oh no, I picked another Idiocracy for... No,
most definitely not. Most definitely not.
Good.
So, I don't really have more to say about Sam Levinson. I guess that leads us into Hari Nef, who played Bex.
Yes.
Who is amazing.
She is.
And
I
she's
love her.
beautiful. And I
Yes.
think I recognize her from Transparent.
Oh, I wondered about that.
You know, I never finished it after Transparent got essentially canceled due to Jeffrey Tambor's Me Too moment. I mean, I think they had another season to kind of try to wrap it up. It was without Jeffrey Tambor, who played Moira, who played the older transgender woman that the series was created around. I just lost interest. I was disappointed in the actor, and I kind of lost interest in the trajectory of the series.
The show.
Yeah.
Well, I'm most familiar with Hari because of the television series You, that sort of got second life on Netflix. It was originally...
Okay, I don't know it, so...
Yeah, I think it was originally on like Hollywood channel or whatever. She had... I don't want to call it a bit part. She was in 4 episodes. So... that's what I originally recognized her from. So when she came up in this movie, I'm like, I know her from somewhere. And what I find most interesting is that she is a trans woman, and she played a trans woman. She didn't just play a teenage girl. She played a trans teenage girl. And so I thought that was interesting.
And I'm going to say, and maybe this is bycatch, but I didn't write it down, and I don't want to forget to say it. I was really shocked that throughout the movie, because I knew she was trans, you had mentioned that, and it was fairly clear fairly early on that she was playing a trans person in the movie, too.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked that she was never once referred to in a demeaning way because of her transgender self.
Except that the one guy who was the instigator in trying to hang her.
Right.
Yeah, there was that. And then she was also, like, kind of deemed undateable.
Right. Like the one guy was like, okay, I'll
Don't
have a
tell
hookup
anybody.
with you, but you can't talk to anybody about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was that stigma.
But, I didn't hear anybody say he, him. I didn't hear anybody say anything god-awful like she-male or anything like that.
Right.
That was shocking to me in a good way, especially
Right.
in the context of this movie.
Right.
So...
We've come so far. We still have so far to go, but we have come so far.
Right.
So she started out as a model, and she became the first openly transgender woman to appear on a cover of a major British magazine.
And she's American, so I thought that was even cooler.
So she was the face of the British campaign for L'Oreal's True Match Foundation. So she's been a spokesperson for L'Oreal. And she's the only thing that I recognized her in from before was You, and now of course this. And I have never watched Transparent, but of course I had heard of it.
It was so good. It was truly one of my favorite shows. And again, I was devastated by the just the whole thing that came out about Jeffrey Tambor being so awful, and about the show essentially being shut down because of his indiscretion.
Yeah.
Indiscretion, that's probably too mild. Because of his horrible behavior.
Right. So yeah, I didn't know much about her. Her Instagram is Hari Neff, and she was gorgeous in this movie, and she's even more beautiful in the pictures on Instagram. Again,
right. I mean, the picture that they have of her on Wikipedia, she's lovely. Just lovely.
Mm-hmm. Another definitely a model. Last night, our featured cast member was a model on Biters, and their Instagrams are so amazing.
Trying to remember who our featured it was the gal who plays Dana Jurgens.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, I was
Natalie Martinez.
It's been a long 24 hours, man.
So Hari Neff is not just another pretty face. She graduated from Columbia University with a degree in theater, and she has written for magazines on many topics.
I thought that was really cool. So what I read was fine art, film, sex, gender, and trans identity.
Mm-hmm.
So that was wicked cool that she has acting skills, she's a model, and she's a writer.
Yeah, yeah. So, I don't have a whole lot more to say about her other than she was amazing, and that's why she the our featured cast member, and like she was the smart girl in the horror movie. Like she noticed that like stuff was happening around the house, and she's like, I'm just gonna crawl out a window. I'm not gonna like try and sneak down a hall, or you know uh she was a survivor. It was amazing. I loved her.
I really thought that she was going to die.
I did too.
And I'm so glad that that did not happen, because it would have been so horrible. The manner of her death, and just, I don't know, the fact that they targeted the one trans character, just that would have been awful too.
Yeah. And like the reason why they targeted her is because they wanted to like get the masculinity back for the guy who had hooked up with her. Like yeah. We will totally get into
Oh
that
yeah,
later.
we're totally going to talk about that. Uh
So yes, Hari Neff, I would love to see more coming up from her. It looks like she has one thing in post-production called in filming, currently filming. It's called One Up. Follows a gamer who quits her college sports team due to sexism from her male counterparts. So another kind of hard-hitting topic.
Interesting. Well, we'll have to watch for it.
Yeah.
I don't have much in Housewives Weekly. I have 2 items about the Satanic Temple, and that's it. So, news from the 27th of last month. It was reported in Christian News, so take it for what it's worth. The Satanic Temple is suing the city of Boston to obtain equal opportunity to do invocations at city council meetings. Sound familiar? And they were actually apparently denied the opportunity to do invocations in Boston in 2016 and 2017. So now they have decided to sue the city of Boston. I'm down with that. I'm fine with that. Of course, there was quite a slant to the reporting in the piece of news that I found. But there we are. And they've had at least semi-successful experiences managing to get into city council meetings and do invocations. So
they either get into the city council meetings to do invocations, or they get invocations canceled altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are some, I think it was Phoenix who was like, yeah, we're just not going to do that anymore.
Right. I'm pretty sure it was Phoenix. I think you're right. And then, of course, Alaska, we actually had our invocation from TST, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And it was so
benign.
Yeah. There was no mention of any deity or any, it was just, yeah.
That invocation was actually mentioned in the article in the Christian News that I looked at.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. The second thing I have in Housewives Weekly is that Ohio just recently enacted a law saying that fetal remains from surgical abortions have to be buried.
Yeah.
Which is huge because, that creates a lot of expense.
Mm-hmm.
Both for the clinics or hospitals that are doing the procedures and also for the women who are having the procedures done. But Satanic Temple's argument is the state cannot dictate burial practices to religious organizations.
Ugh.
Which I think is a really valid argument. That was a very heavy sigh.
I just, why? Why? We have so much more important things to fight over. Like, the world literally was on fire at this time last year. Do you remember? Like, way before, like,
Yeah, like the world actually
COVID
was on fire.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Australia was like 90% on fire. Like, we have so many more important things to fight over, whether or not to what we have to do with tissue after a surgical procedure. I mean, they threw away my tonsils. I wanted to keep them, but like,
Well,
and my
it's
gallbladder,
it's
I would have loved to have kept the stones.
it's funny that you bring that up because that actually is also one of the arguments on the part of the Satanic Temple is that, it is essentially tissue that belongs to the person who had the procedure.
Yep.
And any other like tissue that is
Medical
right
waste.
that's
Yeah.
rendered into medical waste is incinerated, and that is the Satanic Temple's argument.
Yeah, either incinerated or donated to science for study.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know why this is a thing.
It's a thing because Ohio's Republican governor can make it a thing.
Ugh.
So that's all my news. And I don't really have anything new for Housewives housekeeping. Housekeeping. I'm still reading the same Stephen King novel. I haven't watched anything new. We're still doing The Stand for Biters. I've just been really busy.
Yeah, I don't have much either. I mentioned on the podcast last night on Biters that Friday was my first full day back to work since I was sent home quarantined in early March of last year. And I've been back to work, but not for a full day. Yeah, it 0 stars, would not recommend. Very bad.
Oh my God, that is so funny because, of course, I work in the office 4 days a week and they're 10-hour days, so I do a full week. Yeah, and I agree with you. 0 stars, very bad, would not recommend. But I also don't like doing medical visits telephonically because that's weird.
Right.
So
like we talked about last night, it was nice to get up, take a shower, do my hair, get dressed, do my makeup, but like the commute, and don't feel sorry for me. I have like a 15-minute commute. But still, like, driving, that wasn't any fun because the roads are crap. It was cold. There was too many people. I'm definitely on board for teleworking for like the rest of my life. I miss my dogs.
well, because you have seen, I feel like I've been rocking the hair and makeup game lately, so I'm kind of enjoying that part of going to work.
Oh, yeah. Dianne has been HAWT.
Not bad for a 50-year-old lady.
Not bad for a lot of people. Your lipstick game is on point lately.
Oh my God. So yeah, this is totally a housewives housekeeping thing. I bought 3 tubes of lipstick yesterday in varying shades of red.
Oh, it's funny. My boss and I were talking because we have a safety meeting every first Friday of the month. And so the people who were still in the office at 4:00, we all went to one of the local breweries and had a beer, and we're talking, and I was just like, don't get me wrong, like I like to feel nice and put together and pretty and all that kind of stuff, but I was like, I used to waste so much of my life.
Oh my God. And that's so funny because I'm so like, I have to make extra time to get up and do my hair.
I'm over it. Been there, done that. Like,
oh, that's funny. See what happens when you're old and divorced.
if I have a meeting with anybody that would be above my boss, because my boss knows what I look like without makeup. Uh, if I have anybody above that, I will put on makeup so to turn on my webcam to do a Zoom meeting. But that's the extent of it, you know. Like I think I put on a nice top for Dr. Zink and our director, but like I was in my sweats, you know.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yep. Oh,
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
me either.
So I think that moves us very quickly into our summer, winter, and road construction. And I believe I went first last night.
Okay. So my summer, it's a very long piece of dialogue, and it was the very, very end of the movie.
Okay.
It's what Lily had to say. From the moment I arrived, all I was ever given was orders. Smile, open up, cross your legs, spread your pussy, speak softer, scream louder, be quiet, be confident, be interesting. Don't be so difficult. Be strong. Don't fight back. Be an angel. Be a whore. Be a princess. Be whatever you want to be. Even the president of the United States. Just kidding. Fuck you. You still want to kill me, rape me, stab me, shoot me. Let's go. Grab your guns. Rally your fucking crew. Grab your guns and hide behind your masks. You want to do this in real life now? Give it your best shot, because you prepared me for this my whole life. You might kill me, but you can't kill us all. And I just loved that, because I feel that, like, every woman feels like that, where we're told to not make a fuss, or you should have spoken up for yourself, or you shouldn't dress so slutty, or you shouldn't dress like a school marm, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you should do this, you should do that. And it's all such conflicting information, and we're screwed no matter what we do. I mean,
Well, and the thing that was even more phenomenal was the fact that speech was then followed by our four main female characters walking along with guns, like advancing on the crowd of both men and women who were coming after them. And by the way, Taylor Swift, in one of my favorite songs called Mad Woman, talks about how women like doing dirty work for men, which is exactly what I thought of when I saw all of the women in that crowd of people who were advancing on our four female leads.
you know, and we talked about it with people like Lauren Southern.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but the thing that was so cool was not only did we have our four female leads, but they were backed up by a bunch of angry young women.
Yeah. They were watching the speech, and it just struck me that, you know, all of these girls were receiving that message. And you know, I was lucky to grow up in the time that I did, that I sort of started receiving that message early on, that, you know, if people are going to tell you what you should and shouldn't do as a woman, and either way, you're screwed. You know, you're going to be told you're too fat, or you're too thin, or you wear too much makeup, or you should put on a little makeup, or, you know, women shouldn't cut their hair short, you know, or, you know, women shouldn't do this and do that. And yeah, so I just do what you want to do. Like,
it's interesting that you bring that up, because I actually had a gorgeous friend of mine comment on a picture that I had posted, and she was like, I'm just afraid of wearing lipstick that red because I'm afraid I'll be noticed. And I was like,
my goodness.
I was like, first of all, you are completely hot, and secondly, go get it, girl.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you say that, because really, literally one of the prettiest women I know made that comment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna get blasted either way.
We're getting our angry chicks on tonight, man.
We are, and that was the point of this movie. Is you're either gonna be the loud, obnoxious feminist, or you're gonna be the poor little girl who didn't stand up for herself and is the victim. And there's no in between. We talked about this with what was the movie that we did last week? In it of itself.
Right.
You're a label. You are a label to everyone. That label may be different for everybody. But yeah, so just do what you're going to do anyway, because people are going to think what they're going to think. And yeah. So.
Make memories for the nursing home.
And hope that you remember them.
Oh my God, you are so bad.
Well, I did read an article the other day that by like 2050, there's going to be like this huge population boom of people with dementia and Alzheimer's and diseases of the memory and everything.
Great,
so
thanks, because I have a history of a brain injury, which makes me a lot more likely to develop something like that. So shut up.
So that was my summer, is that final speech that Lily gave, because it's so true. And yeah. And what's funny is I kind of feel that guys are kind of coming into that now themselves. You're seeing a rise of men with body dysmorphia, because the images that they are shown are all of, these really muscular, well-built men.
Right. I mean, they all look like Alexander Skarsgård.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so you have this huge upswing in plastic surgery in men, for hair treatment in men, and eating disorders in men. And so I feel sorry for them, because it's like, this is something that women have been fighting against since like the beginning of time. But I'm also kind of like, it's a little bit of taste of medicine that, we've been taking all along. So while I don't wish any sort of eating disorder or body dysmorphia on anybody, it's kind of like they can now sympathize with us. They can now empathize with us that, not all of us are swimsuit models. Not all of us have that perfect button nose or long, shiny hair when we wake up, Mine's pretty grungy, so it takes a lot of effort to look presentable. And now I don't have to turn on my camera, so it's awesome.
It does. I mean, it really does take a lot of effort. And I kind of was halfway joking about, getting up earlier to do things like do hair and makeup, but I am, and it takes more effort. But, maybe
feel better, though.
I was going to say, maybe this is me buying in, but I do feel like I feel overall better about myself and about kind of my situation. So, yeah. Of course, I'm also not an 18-year-old girl in a town that's gone crazy. So,
right.
No, yeah. I'm a 50-year-old with some agency. So,
so that was my summer. What was yours?
Well, so mine goes to one of the things that Lily, who is basically our narrator through the series or through the movie, and she says something to the effect of, 10% of people are really good, and 10% of people are really evil, and then 80% of people can be swayed either way.
Yep.
Which of course plays out very clearly through the movie. But the thing that was actually my good is that Diamond, who is the guy who had sex with Bex, actually ended up being one of the 10% with some integrity.
Yeah.
which was surprising and really nice.
Yeah. I really liked that too, that he finally went against the jerk jock Johnny.
Was that Bill Skarsgård?
No, Bill Skarsgård was Lily's boyfriend. Johnny was
Okay,
just a
okay.
random jock.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, I love that he stood up to him. I love, yeah. I wish he would have done a little bit more. Because Bex did nearly die, but
he at least didn't go along.
Right. And I loved it when she tied him or whatever, and she's like, so like, thanks for not killing me or whatever.
Right, and then Lily actually says, well, not all men.
That was funny.
Yeah. So that was my summer. It's fairly small for liking the movie so much, but there was so much about this movie that was grim that it was hard to find good.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I guess if I were more cinematographer. Oh, for heaven's sake. I guess if I had a better mind in terms of film criticism, I would be able to say something really intelligent about the art of the film. But no, my thing was, I'm really glad that Diamond turned out to be a decent person after all.
Yeah. Definitely. So, my winter. Everyone in Lily's life, except for her three best friends, were terrible people.
Oh my God. When her parents threw her out. Her dad didn't really actively throw her out, but he didn't prevent it, and her mother was a terrible person. And then her brother, oh my God.
And like Mark, her boyfriend.
Right. Ugh.
Oh my God. They were just so awful. I mean, even her dad didn't throw her out, but like at the dinner table when he was basically patronizing her.
Right. Men will be men and girls will be girls, and it's my job to protect you. I was like, oh, yeah. Really?
He can't even say
Did you really
women.
just say that? Yeah. Men will be men and girls will be girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not women will be women, girls will be girls. I was just immediately disgusted by him.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the mother throwing her out because she got hacked, and like, I don't know what the reasoning would have been, if it was the whole like her nudes or like the home wrecking or what.
I think it was probably the whole thing. I mean, it doesn't make it okay. It's not okay that the mother did that, but I think it was just the shock of, I mean, not only did she have some nudes, but wasn't there at least one where she was masturbating?
Yeah.
And then that it was all directed at the 40-something father of a kid that she babysat for. I mean, I think it was just, everything was completely shocking to that mother.
I just could not imagine somebody going through the worst moment of their life,
right,
and being like, and being she became the victim of some, it was because she was the victim of the hacking, and then like having the worst moment of her life, and then being like, I want you out of my house. Right.
No, I agree. And, I mean, she was begging, please don't make me do this right now. Don't make me live through this right now. Don't do this to me right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, if you were appalled at what your daughter had done and everything like that, I just can't. Throwing someone out with like just the clothes on their back, like I can't get over that. Lily was 18, so like you could have said, you know what, pack your stuff and be out tomorrow. But just to like drag her out of the house and lock the door, like, oh.
I don't know for sure, but, let me rephrase that. Let me start that over again. So, there's part of me that would like to believe that we are starting to evolve enough that we are recognizing that we're dealing with a generation now that pretty much most of those young people have nude selfies, have things that are more explicit than just selfies. Mm-hmm. Online, easily hacked, unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
shared as revenge porn. I mean, I would hope that we would recognize that that's much more common. I don't know. I don't know that that would make it more palatable for a parent. I don't, obviously not in this circumstance, but I just would hope that we would recognize that's so much more common.
Yeah. And that, she's a teenage girl. Like, it's not like she was we barely hold, teenagers accountable for, getting into car accidents and things like that. And to have your private life leaked to everybody, you know, teenagers don't have the best judgment, which is why, you know, they have higher insurance rates. Like, rental cars won't rent to them. You can't sign a contract until you're 18. You can't legally drink or smoke marijuana until you're 21. Like, there's all these things that it's like, well, you're not mature enough to make these decisions. But if you have a misstep like this, we're totally just gonna you're on your own.
Yeah, I mean, ugh, the whole situation was horrible.
It was. So that was my winter. Is everyone except for her best friends in her life were horrible people. We won't even get into Mark at this point.
Well, so my winter, I've already said it, but that it was just so disturbing and that I really truly was sick to my stomach while I was watching it. But I
Hmm.
also don't think it was inappropriate that I had that visceral response, literally that visceral response.
Hmm.
It was meant to be disturbing. It was not a
Hmm.
black comedy. It was meant to be disturbing.
And shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I first watched it, I kind of snickered at the trigger warning at the beginning, and because there's some funny ones that are thrown in there, like white male fragility, um, and but no, like, it's all in there. They warned you up front. There is gore, there is violence, there is attempted date rape. Like, yeah, it's very, very shocking.
Yeah, it was. It was it, and like I said, I said to my friends online, 5 out of 5, but know what you're going into if you decide to watch it.
Yeah. We didn't have a lot to say about Sam Levinson, the director, but looking at the trivia for Assassination Nation, um, it it says, since the film is about teenage girls and what their experiences are like, including those of a transgender girl, writer Sam Levinson, who is an adult cisgender male, gave the script to all of the girls so that they could give their input. There was indeed some things he changed and adjusted and added based on what they said. So
Huh.
that's very cool.
That is very cool.
Sam Levinson said he spent a lot of time simply reading what young women put online, and he works in much of that contemporary feminist discourse into his script.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I would not want to be a teenage woman, girl at this point in time.
No, I was actually, and this is a little bit more into bycatch, but I was looking at just everything they were dealing with online, and I thought we didn't have to deal with that when we were that age.
No,
It's hard
not
enough
at
to
all.
deal with the societal pressures that we deal with as adults
Hmm.
online.
And I could not imagine being a teenager and doing the dumb stuff we did and saying the dumb things that we said, uh, having that be able to be documented and spread instantly.
Yeah.
Ugh, no thanks.
And, unless you do something like vanish mode, something that's there forever.
Yeah, yeah. Oh.
So, what was your road construction?
My road construction was when they were all sitting around and talking about, um, specifically about porn. And the one guy's like, porn taught me how to fuck. And the one girl's like, no, you think porn.
Right.
We've had that discussion before where I think we had it during Boogie Nights where it's like so many men grew up taking their cues from porn,
right,
and thinking that's how it should be. And I love when the girl's like, that's why all of my first dates on Tinder think that like
they can choke me. Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh wow, that is so true. we just talked about that with Boogie Nights.
Well, and then when the other guy says, and I'm not going to say it exactly the way he said it, I learned to do oral sex on women from porn, and the girl was like, no, all I have to do is look in your eyes to know that's not true.
And he's like, well, you'll never find out. And she's like, tragic. Oh man, these girls have some biting wit for their age.
Yeah, no, it was great.
It was. I absolutely loved that. It was such a small thing, but it just was a big call out. You think it taught you how to fuck?
Yeah, that was really funny.
Oh. What was your road construction?
Well, we kind of already talked about it, but it was basically the end. The girls and the girl gang, and just, them being like, all right, you want to kill us, you want to rape us, you want to erase us, bring it, because here we come.
And you've been preparing us for this our entire lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those words alone, I'm like, absolutely. I felt like it was Sally Field in that movie where she's holding up the Union
Norma.
sign. Yeah. Yeah. All right, I think that takes us into Bycatch. And there's actually a deleted scene where Lily says it again, but I love the line, the worse it gets for me, the more entertaining it is for you.
Oh, right. I mean, they're basically talking about how people love someone else's tragedy.
Yep. It's like, they literally tragedy porn. Like, we all watched like Casey Anthony's trial. We all watched.
Not all of us did, but some of us were old enough that we watched OJ. So there you are. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually just finished the documentary Framing Britney Spears.
Oh, that must have been interesting.
I highly recommend it. I think it is on Hulu. And like, so Britney Spears right now, she's been under a conservatorship financially and personally for the past 13 plus years. This poor woman cannot get a pap smear without her dad's permission.
That's just disgusting.
He can sign contract deals for her, and like tour deals and music deals and record deals for her, and like there's nothing she can do about it. Like, once you are under a conservatorship, a permanent conservatorship, and after her temporary conservatorship, she signed away giving him permanent conservatorship because they were threatening to basically lock her away after her very public meltdown, and not let her see her two young sons. She was suffering from postpartum depression after having 2 kids in 2 years. And then the big Justin Timberlake making a revenge song about her and everything about their breakup and everything like that. And like, she had 70 paparazzis following her every day, everywhere she goes. It was just like,
Oh, and she was
I
so
felt,
dang young.
yes. And I felt so sorry for her. And she has like no control over her life now. And it's terrible. And, you know, I was guilty of it too. I watched the tragedy porn of Britney Spears during her meltdown when she shaved her head and she beat that paparazzi's car with an umbrella, and the Diane Sawyer interview, and like I watched it too. And you know, the worse it gets for someone, the more entertaining it is for the rest of us. And I have to curb that kind of thing. I've tried to curb it, you know, a lot since I've sort of become cognizant of it. But it's tough because it's usually so out there. I mean, if you have a public scandal, you know, it trends for days on Twitter, and they make documentaries about you, and it's in our 24/7 news cycle. And so, yeah, I thought that was very pointed. The worse it gets for me, the more entertaining it gets for you.
So I want to talk about the very first line.
Oh, yes.
This is the story of how my town Salem lost its motherfucking mind. I was like, what? I'm completely sucked in now.
Well, and of course, this was a play on the Salem witch trials.
Absolutely. And so I said it to you, I know when we were offline, and I can't remember if I said it when we signed on, but you had said it was a combination of Heather's The Salem Witch Trials and The Purge. And I was like, no, it's like Heather's The Purge and The Crucible.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember, yes, I actually read The Crucible. I had to for school. But it's the girls were, somebody pointed a finger at these girls. And what's so interesting is, like, as soon as they were like, well, the uploads came from Lily's house, or it came from Lily. And I'm like, there were 3 other people in that house, including one little brother who I think he'd probably be more suspect than Lily would be, because she was the 3rd person to have her stuff hacked and released. Like, why would she do that to herself?
I am going to tell you, because I mean, that just leads us right into the very end of the movie. So when they're sitting in the police station and they're like reading off like what all of the charges are going to be to the 2 parents, I thought, oh God, poor Lily. They've got her anyway. And then when it turned out that it was the little brother, I was like, oh my God. I was so shocked.
Oh,
it was a great turn for me. I was very shocked.
I immediately thought the little brother when they said the hack, that it was coming from Lily's house. And I was like, no, it's got to be her little brother. And I kind of second guessed myself, because I was like, maybe he's a little young, and then at the end when they did the whole, she's, murder and blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh my God, are they really going to charge her with all that? And then it was the brother. I was like, I called it.
And see, I totally didn't put it together.
And he did it for the lulz. And that just takes me back to the whole QAnon incel bullshit, where, it all started on 4chan and 8kun, and, it's just a bunch of involuntary celibates sitting around doing, making shit up because they're bored. Ugh.
Yeah, no, that was shocking.
Yeah. Yeah. God, and like, how do you come back from any, like, could you imagine the mess?
How does anybody in that town come back from that? And okay, that's actually, now that you mentioned the mess, that actually wasn't the actual end of the movie. I have to be honest, the marching band in the trashed bloody streets kind of took me out of it a little bit. I was like,
Yeah,
what the what?
I didn't understand the point of that
I
either.
didn't, I was totally like, I'm sure that there's something really arty and really cool about that, but I don't get it. And
Yeah.
that makes me feel not so intelligent.
Um, yeah, because I mean, the character that Joe McHale played, Nick, he like I don't know what happened to his kids, but he murdered his wife.
Okay, so
And
I was like, did he murder his wife or did his wife kill herself? I mean, she did have a plastic bag over her head.
yeah, I think that he murdered his wife, but like they didn't show the kids, so I'm like, okay, like maybe she sent the kids to grandma's house and then killed her. I don't know, but like he was gonna kill Lily, and he was the instigate. He killed the one kid that they waterboarded. Um, oh, I cannot remember him. Marty. They killed Marty after they interrogated him and filmed him saying that it was Lily. Uh, and then he instigated a whole bunch of the mob. And, you know, so Lily winds up having to kill him. And so, like, I just cannot imagine having to. And then like, everything that I can see her killing the cop because like he was a part of a violent mob. I see him no longer as law enforcement. He was part of the violent mob. But everything that they did after that, like shooting the boys and stuff, I'm like, okay, like after Bex was safe, like shooting up the truck and like shooting the one kid through the tire
Right.
wheel well, I'm like, you know, like I would hate to be the state police or the feds or whoever they brought in for this to have to untangle, you know, whether a crime was committed or something was done in self-defense.
So speaking of criming, um, oh my God, the mom got killed and then the mayor killed himself. I mean, it was all so shocking.
Yeah.
Like all of those scenes were so, and I mean, literally when the mayor shot himself, I was like, and then when the mom was killed, I was like, I mean, it was so shocking.
Yeah. Yeah. Um
And I loved Coleman Domingo as the principal. I'm so
I
glad that you said that he was the principal.
Yeah, and he was so surprising when I first watched the movie, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's Coleman Domingo!" And he played such a cool guy,
Yeah, he was
you know.
great. He was fantastic in that role.
And I loved that Lily was standing up for him, and you know, because he had a porn search history that is pretty normal. Like if you look at the most search terms for Pornhub in like the 50 states, like teen is actually a pretty popular one. Um and so like yeah, that looks really terrible because he's a high school principal. And then having the photos of your child in a bath like is innocuous overall. There are pictures of us in the bath when we were little kids, you know. Um, but pulling it all together and having judgmental people, it just yeah, I felt so terrible for him. And he wanted to stand, you know, he wanted to stand up for himself. Uh, and it just the mob shouted him down.
So shocking.
It is.
Just the movie was so shocking. All right. Oh, I loved this quote too. There was some really good dialogue in this movie, and this I believe is Lily again. The truth is, no one wants the real you, so you stop telling the truth. You lie to everyone who says they love you for being you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when she says they only want parts and pieces of you, which is where my rating came from.
Yeah. I also liked her nudity isn't inherently sexual.
Oh, when she was talking to the principal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause it's true. You know, we're the ones that, and she was actually talking to her dad too, because
Oh, right, about
uh
the photos of his daughter in the bathtub.
yeah, because her dad's like, well, after two, I never, saw you naked again, wanted to see you naked again. And she's like, why? And he's
You're
like, 'cause
right. You're
you're
the
my
one who made it
daughter.
weird, Dad. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, exactly. Like, nudity isn't inherently sexual. I'm your daughter. Yeah. I loved that because it was such a great argument. Oh. So our long lost housewife episode about Citizen 4,
Right.
when the hacker activated her camera.
Right. So I also felt like this was actually a good follow-up to The Social Dilemma.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that creeped me out so bad. And I mean, I had done it previously, but I stopped doing it a while ago because I'm like, I don't care. It's really just North Korea looking through people's cameras, But I do have a sticky note over my laptop camera right now as we speak.
Oh, that's funny. I don't. I probably should, but I don't.
Well, so I use my laptop mostly to watch movies and shows in my bath. So I just spend a really inordinate amount of time naked in front of my laptop.
Oh, now anybody who was planning on hacking your laptop is going to try.
Well, you're just gonna get probably a fuzzy yellow haze because it's just a yellow sticky note over it. The creeps in the car. The guys who harassed her from the car.
Oh, yeah. After she got thrown out. Yeah.
Have you ever had that happen to you?
No. No, are you kidding?
Oh.
I'm not that hot.
When I was younger, I had somebody in a car follow me and catcall me, and it is terrifying.
I bet it is.
Yeah. Ugh. But it was so satisfying when she hit him in the face with a shovel.
Yes! Did she kill him? Do you think she killed him? He looked pretty head injured.
I was going to say, you can shove that nasal bone up into the brain.
Yeah, no, he looked pretty messed up.
Yeah. Like, I felt so sorry for the kid with the bullfrog. Oh. So, one of the cinematography things that I absolutely love.
Oh, and you're going to tell me it's a one shot, right? Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Okay.
It's called a one shot, and it was when someone had posted that it was Lily who leaked it, and the one girl goes to arm the alarm system, and we see all of the guys creeping around the outside, and that whole thing is a one shot.
So like the whole thing with M and the mom and
until they cut away to inside the house. Yes, like everything that occurs in and around the house from the time that the one girl goes in and is like, is the alarm armed? And the mom is like, no. And so she goes down to arm the alarm, and all the guys start creeping up. And there's even a car that pulls up that they had panned to that and followed it. And it was just an amazing one shot. So you said you wanted to go back and rewatch it. So watch for that when you rewatch it.
I just don't have as good an eye for things like that as you do.
It's just, like I said, one of the best ones I have ever seen was that episode of Preacher. There's another one that's done with Atomic Blonde. But those were like those are fight scenes, and that's actually really difficult to do because you cannot cut away. Like you have to have everything perfectly choreographed because there is no splicing anything in. And so if one person screws it up, you have to start all over again. So it's just a really impressive filming technique. And it's just when it's done well, it's done well. And it was done very well in this.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I have to say, so, and this is kind of in the same sequence, when Bex was in the pool with that guy, you know, and of course I had captions on, and so it was like, nail gun, nail gun, nail gun, and I was like, oh my god, Bex is gonna die!
Right?
You know, it was hard enough to follow that I didn't realize that Bex was the one who was shooting the person who attacked her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was pretty horrible.
Yeah, I kept thinking that because I mean, who is it that always dies? It's always the black character or the LGBTQ
or the smart girl
character.
or yeah.
Yeah. And so I just kept expecting them to kill Bex, and I was so happy that she made it. Speaking of which, I still do not know what the second A stands for in LGBTQIAA.
I don't either. I know that the first one is asexual, but
Yeah.
I haven't looked it up, so I'm not, yeah. If I were a good human, I would know that, but I don't.
Well, and I've Googled it, and I still really can't find anything because everything that I'm seeing is LGBTQIA plus. I love it when Bex was at the party and the mayor had just gotten hacked, and she's
like, I don't have to feel bad for him.
Well, and she's like, why do middle-aged cross-dressers always have the worst taste in lingerie?
Oh, so A is sometimes asexual and sometimes ally.
Oh.
I'm looking more. Yeah, and then the plus is other non-heterosexual people. So.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I interrupted what you said about Bex.
Oh, no.
She was basically like, why is it always the straight white guy who turns out to be the straight white guy who's trying to destroy people who are LGBTQ?
You know, God, and that is so true. Like, I just think of that one senator or whatever in the men's room at the airport.
Oh, right. Larry. Can't even remember his last name. Larry something.
What's funny is I think it was the same guy that he had been known to frequently contact men via Rent Boy. And if you watch very closely, the mayor had some interaction on Rent Boy, and so I was like,
"Oh, that's funny."
I wonder if it's just because it's popular or if that's a specific call out.
Larry Craig.
Yes. Yeah.
Another quote, more quotes, but one of the girls says, "Privacy is just dead."
So that is Bella Thorne, and I absolutely love to hate her or hate to love her. I don't know. She's been in a lot of movies that I've watched. She's in a really, really fun one called The Babysitter on Netflix. And she always plays such a terrible stuck-up cheerleader type, and she was that in this, and we find out that she purposefully leaked her friend's nudes, and then we see her friend hit her upside the head with a baseball bat, and people cheered for her. I was like, oh my god, that is so funny.
There was so much in this movie. That was the other thing that made me really wish that I'd gotten a second watch. There was so much in this movie, and I feel like I feel like I missed more than I caught.
It is so good.
It's really, really, really layered.
I'm really glad you liked it.
Yeah, I really did.
I'm going to have to see if I can find the soundtrack too, because it turned me on to a lot of music that I had never heard before.
So
I really liked.
I looked for the soundtrack, and it was mostly like the instrumental music. There were 3 or 4 songs that were some of the lyric based music.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, I hate that too. I was really disappointed because I was going to put it on my phone and listen to it, but I didn't. Because I generally speaking, I'm not really into lyric music. Or I mean instrumental music. Like instrumental movie. I don't know. I didn't look in the iTunes store. I just looked on my free iTunes. I'll have to look on that and see.
Well, and I could always make a playlist. Look up the individual artists and make a playlist. So there was kind of an interesting context that there was an interlocking theme in everyone who was hacked became an unsympathetic character, in that, like, nobody felt sorry for them for having their being a victim of a crime because of the stuff you found out about them. So the mayor wasn't sympathetic because he was anti-LGBTQ, and he was in the closet as at the very least a cross-dresser, probably gay.
Right.
So the principal became unsympathetic because he had pornography that involved the word teen and a couple of, photos of his child in the bath. And Lily became unsympathetic because she was a homewrecker. And so you have all of these people who are the victim, and, like, we should feel sorry for them, but you have this mob going after them, and their justification is their own piety, which none of them have. They're all hypocrites, everyone, whether you think you do or not, you have something to hide, because, like the principal, even things that are seemingly innocuous to you are inflammatory to somebody else. And so I just thought it was really interesting. And she did make a kind of a commentary on that at the end, where it was like, you built this, you're the hypocrites that are, your righteousness outweighs everything. And so I just thought that was interesting that, as the viewer, we all feel sorry for these characters because we know the people behind them. And when Lily and Bex were talking after Lily got hacked, Lily's like, I'm not a bad person. And Bex is like, I know. And I know. But I can't help but think that if Bex hadn't been her friend, if she didn't know Lily, if she was just part of the mob, she would have called her a homewrecker too. But because she knew her, because she was that friend, you always want to give your friends and loved ones the benefit of the doubt. Like, me too.
Oh, hang on, you're fading out.
Okay, I was gonna say, I think I lost you.
So you always want to give your friends the benefit of the doubt. That's where I lost you. That's where you faded out.
Yeah, so you're always wanting to give people that you like or side with the benefit of the doubt, and we see that in the new movement too, where it's like, oh yeah, the creep that we've always hated, of course, but then you have somebody that you're like, oh, but I really liked that person, and so it's harder to be part of the mob if you know that person, but it's sure easy to be the mob when you don't.
Fair enough. Although I would say on the flip side, it's a small enough town that everybody should have known everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. But not everyone's going to like everybody.
True. But it's a small
Yeah.
enough town that everybody should know everybody. So there should be a little bit less, I don't know, less willingness to be as brutal and as horrible as they were.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Hmm. So did you have any more to go
Um,
over?
just kind of looking through. So, you know, I did comment earlier, and I just want to say it again. It really brought to mind just the whole toxicity of the internet. Um, and in, you know, in some ways, me reflecting just how toxic it is in my own life in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see. We had a cop actually leading the vigilantes, which was horrifying.
I know. And
Oh, no, go ahead.
I just again had what happened a month ago not happened. This movie would have been probably slightly lower rated because it would have been less believable. And now I'm like, yeah, that could totally happen.
So I want to talk for a minute about the scene with Nick Mathers where he is basically like, "You ruined my life and I didn't even get to fuck you."
Oh, yeah.
Like, that was horrifying. And I actually thought that just to save herself, she was going to give in.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought she was going to try and get a hold of the knife. She was going to seduce him until she could get a hold of the knife. But, and that, like, I also thought she, like, when he was like screaming in pain, I thought she was like biting him or something, but she was jamming her thumbs in his eyes. It should have been way easier to get into that bathroom.
Ah, you're fading out again, unfortunately.
Oh no.
You said it should have been way
Can you hear
easier
me?
to get into the bathroom, and then I lost the next thing that you said. We're having some audio issues tonight for some reason.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should have been way easier to do an internal bathroom door. Those locks are nothing.
I wouldn't know. I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's not, again, it's not something that I would have thought of. I was just so sucked into the moment and so horrified by all of a sudden she's in this bathroom filled with blood with this dead woman. I was like, "Ah!"
Yeah, yeah, and her makeshift weapon. I was like, oh, thank God for the Dollar Shave Club.
And so the other thing that I did write, and I mean, we kind of said this already, was that it was just really intensely satisfying to have the girls triumph and save Bex and then lead a posse of women.
Yeah, yeah, posse of women and girls.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And our girls could have killed that jock and they didn't. So I was like, that's pretty cool that our girls are 10% of those who show mercy. Because even as
yeah.
they're
I mean,
leading
I
that
don't know.
posse of angry women, they're like, you know what? We're gonna fire if you start something.
Right, right. And I don't know if I could have let the jock go. Like I talked about earlier, where I was like, they're sort of like going over the line between self-defense and straight up murder. And like I I don't know, especially being Bex, having been the one that was, she actually was hung. They had to cut her down. When they
Right.
shot the driver, the truck drove away and Bex started to hang.
Right.
And so I don't know if I could have let him go. Like him begging for his life, I would have been like, you didn't show me an ounce of sympathy when I was begging for my life. Yeah. Ugh.
I
So
don't
I'm
really, yeah,
glad you liked it.
I don't have anything else to say except that I did really like it. I'm glad that we watched it. I was surprised. again, that I liked it as much as I did, but I'm super glad that I did. But I definitely, again, would say to anybody who hasn't watched it, who's thinking about watching it, heed the trigger warning.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Don't watch with children in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I set the bar a little high again, didn't I?
Hey, I just want to remind you that I was the one who said we should start with Hail Satan. So I set the bar high. You raised the bar again.
Yep. So you've got to come up with the next thing we podcast about.
Oh, God. You know, someone did say that they wanted us to podcast about human sexuality. So that might have to be something that I try to figure out what we're going to look into.
Okay, Charlie Esser posted something super interesting on Facebook today about gender. That was really cool. Basically about how, you can have a male with two X chromosomes, but they're physically male, or you can have, a male with an XY chromosome and physically male, but they don't produce the male hormone.
But I think this person was actually talking about the old bump and grind. I don't think they were actually talking about gender. I think they were talking about sexuality.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, and people confuse those two. And so that really would be an interesting topic, sex and sexuality.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll see if I can find something that, is not completely pornographic that we could talk about. Oh, and don't forget, we are doing Capes and Lunatics After Dark next weekend? No, the weekend after. We decided on the weekend of the 20th.
Okay.
So...
All right. Well, I guess until next week, you girls just watch out for those weirdos.
Oh, we definitely are the weirdos, mister.
Have a good week, everybody.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.